Most MLB fans know that by September, the regular season in baseball has nearly concluded. The contending teams have been set in stone, and the losing teams have been eliminated and banished to the realm of irrelevancy. Most fans would enjoy it if those teams just rolled over and let the winning teams continue to march toward the postseason. By most fans, I mean fans of contending teams, but sadly, this isn't always the case. These losing teams can sometimes reshape their identity, upholding their dignity as a squad by taking on the role of spoiler team. The spoiler team plays for no reward other than a few extra meaningless wins and a worse draft spot for their team the following year. But the sweet feeling of thwarting a rival when they didn't expect it is pretty priceless. We've seen some nasty spoiler teams over the past several years, like the Orioles crushing Boston fans' dreams and sending the Rays to the playoffs, or the Marlins making Tom Glavine look like an unprepared spot starter. But oftentimes, these spoiler performances go by the wayside, forgotten after a week or so. Well, forgotten by most people, but probably remembered forever by the team that they spoiled. Today, we'll be going back to one of the more recent spoiler performances, one that will surely haunt Detroit fans everywhere, so sorry if you're a Tigers fan. The Tigers were on their merry way to a playoff berth in the wildcard game in 2016, but a young, unproven team in the Atlanta Braves would excitedly do everything they could to ensure that they locked down one extra win that year. And for a special team in Canada, this would be the best news that they could get. This is the story of the forgotten spoiler team. Before we can tell the story, we need to set the stage. On October 1st, 2016, the Detroit Tigers sat with an 86-73 record, 13 games over 500, and a half game out of the second wildcard spot in the American League. Earlier in September, they rattled off a 5-game win streak, then a 3-game losing streak, then a 3-game win streak. In this stretch, they registered a weighted runs created plus of 156, which was best in MLB by a large margin, with the second-place Mets coming in 30 points behind. Point blank, they were the hottest offense in baseball. Keep this in mind. It had been a roller coaster couple weeks for sure, but they arrived into their final series of the season against the Atlanta Braves, and things were looking pretty good. The Braves had a frustrating season to that point, owning a record of 56-91 just a few weeks prior. But in September, something was in the water in Atlanta. They'd win 10 of 11 entering their final series against Detroit, their winningest stretch of the season. The young guys were finally stepping up, and although it was too late for them in the season, this would be telling of the Braves' future success that was just around the corner. This was fully a rebuild year for them, but it was nice for them to get some wins toward the tail end of the season. Before we can get to the matchup between the Braves and the Tigers, we need to figure out who the Tigers were chasing in the first place. They're not even in a playoff spot yet, so why should we feel good about their chances in the first place? Well, the Tigers sat a half game back behind both the Toronto Blue Jays and Baltimore Orioles in the final series of the season, with both of those teams sitting at 88-73. The Orioles were handling a fourth-place Yankees team, but Toronto had a daunting matchup with the Red Sox, who were still chasing for the top seed in the American League against the Cleveland Indians. This meant that no one was getting rested, and that each of the final games still very much mattered to Boston. With their opponent having home field advantage in the playoffs on the line, the Blue Jays had really stumbled into the last month as well, going 9-15 leading up to the final series, including dropping 3 of 4 to Baltimore right before, which all but secured their wildcard spot. After Baltimore was swept in 4 games by Boston earlier in the month, they'd win 6 of their next 7 to enter October 1st a game up on the Blue Jays and looking pretty good headed into the postseason. The Jays and the Red Sox were a clean 8-8 against each other before Boston took game 1 of the series, slicing the Blue Jays' wildcard margin to just a half game. The Jays held a 3-1 lead in the first game before a 7th inning implosion capped off by a Big Papi 2-run bomb, which helped the Red Sox take game 1. This brought us to October 1st, with the Tigers within reach of both the Jays and the Orioles, with the former being far more likely to lose the spot rather than the latter. So now that we know the circumstances of today, we can really analyze each game. And trust me, it's a complete roller coaster ride. Towing the rubber against the Tigers was a guy named Aaron Blair. Aaron Blair was a former first-round pick for the Braves and a supposed piece of their future rotation, but his first season had yielded some abysmal results. Blair had just 3 quality starts and 14 total starts with an 8.02 ERA headed into this game. He'd never struck out more than 5 batters in a game and had never gone more than 4 innings without issuing a free pass on the bases. So, kind of easy fodder. For a Tigers team that was 3rd in MLB with a 106 weighted runs created plus, and as we mentioned before, the hottest offense in baseball, Aaron Blair was perfect lunch meat to keep their season alive at least one more day. And at this point, a Tigers loss and a Jays win would seal the postseason order and eliminate Detroit altogether, so they needed this game. and for this must-win game, they sent Jordan Zimmermann to the bump, who had a poor season but still had a respectable resume from his Washington years. He had pitched in big games before for the Nationals, and the Tigers needed him to give them a chance today. But he had allowed 12 earned runs in 2 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts, and thus was demoted to the bullpen. But he was recalled for this game out of pure necessity. Justin Verlander needed one more day of rest and was ready to go for game 162, but the Tigers needed Zim to get them there. If Zimmermann could get them through this game, Verlander could easily get them through game 162, and then they'd have Rookie of the Year Michael Fulmer for the wildcard game. They were set, and all they needed to do was beat up on Aaron Blair. And they seemed fairly confident they could put up a crooked number on Blair greater than whatever number put up on Zimmermann. Point being, this was going to be an offensive barn burner of a game. Back over in Boston, it was do or die time for the Blue Jays as well. J.A. Happ towed the rubber for the Jays against Eduardo Rodriguez. Happ was a 20-game winner at the end of his best season in his career with a 2.22 ERA in his past 4 September starts. If anyone was right for this do or die game, it was J.A. Happ. He had posted a 3.18 ERA on the year to go along with a 1.17 whip and 20.5 strikeout percentage, making him one of the premier starters in the Toronto rotation. On the other side of things, while inconsistent, Rodriguez was having his best month of the season with a 2.86 ERA in September of 2016. This gave him plenty of momentum into this key game. By the end of the second inning, the two teams had traded 2-run singles to leave it even at 2-2, a score that would stick through the end of 5 innings. And while this game remained heated, the unthinkable was occurring in Atlanta. Aaron Blair kicked things off by striking out 5 of the first 6 Detroit batters, tying his career strikeout record with just 6 outs. Ian Kinsler, Cameron Maybin, JD Martinez, Justin Upton, and Nick Castellanos all set down by a guy who was ranked dead last among pitchers that season with at least 70 innings pitched. Those are 5 capable major league hitters, some of whom were having fantastic seasons, some of the best in their career. But they couldn't figure out Aaron Blair. Okay, not time to panic yet, we're only 2 innings in, let's see what's going on in Boston. Back in Boston, Kevin Pillar ripped off another single off Matt Barnes to collect his 3rd RBI of the game and give the Jays a 3-2 lead. J.A. Happ pitches into the 7th inning and finishes his night with an impressive final line against the most potent offense in baseball that season. 6 1/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, but 1 strikeout. Not his best start, but enough to keep the Jays in the game for sure. With panic mode setting in for Detroit, the Tigers score their first run off Blair in the 3rd on an Ian Kinsler double, but Freddie Freeman erases this with a 2-run bomb off Jordan Zimmermann in the following inning. However, Zim escapes a nasty jam after walking the bases loaded with a groundout from the opposing pitcher. But Blair doesn't slow up after his groundout, and he ends up finishing 6 strong innings with 2 strikeouts on Cameron Maybin and JD Martinez, thus concluding what will be his best start in his MLB career. 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts. With the bullpens in motion, Nick Markakis and Justin Upton traded solo shots to make it a 3-2 Braves lead in the 7th inning. Time is running out for Detroit now. Back at Fenway Park, the Jays continue to hold their own and have a 3-2 lead into the bottom of the 8th, where Roberto Ozuna has taken the bump. Jason Grilli allowed a double and a walk, but Ozuna came in and immediately got a huge double play, only to balk with Mookie Betts on 3rd, enabling him to score. Tie game 3-3, and the light is back at the end of the tunnel for the Tigers. But things are getting extremely dire in Atlanta. Adonis Garcia singles home 2 runs off Shane Green to make it a 5-2 Atlanta lead in the 7th. The Tigers' winning probability is now down to 5%, with the Blue Jays hanging at 47% in their tie game. That tie wouldn't last long, however. Craig Kimbrell gets the top of the 9th for the Red Sox, and until September 22nd, Kimbrell held a 2.52 ERA as the closer for Boston. He had allowed 5 runs in his last 2 outings, allowing his ERA to balloon to 3.35, making it his worst mark in any of his seasons ever. But that just speaks volumes to how good Craig Kimbrell was and still is now. Bear in mind, if the Blue Jays lose this game, the Tigers can lose and still try and make the playoffs the next day with Verlander on the bump. But if the Jays win and the Tigers lose, their season is over. The Blue Jays are able to crack Kimbrell after a walk, a sac bunt, a wild pitch, and then a sacrifice fly, which helps bring home pinch runner Dalton Pompey to make it a 4-3 game headed into the bottom of the 9th. Roberto Ozuna is coming on to pitch his 2nd inning of relief to get the win, and he's able to settle down the Red Sox 1-2-3, sealing a 4-3 Blue Jays win. The Tigers must come back on the Braves now to keep their season alive for one more day. Jim Johnson comes in for the save for Atlanta and allows a double to Nick Castellanos, sandwiched in between 2 quick outs. Jose Iglesias breathes life into the offense with a liner off Johnson to plate a run, but it's too little too late. Victor Martinez grounds one to second base to end the game and the Tigers season in heartbreaking fashion. Jays win, Tigers lose, and the wildcard teams are set. And just like that, the statistical worst pitcher in baseball in 2016 helped eliminate a playoff team in his final start of the season. If there was ever an unlikely spoiler team, it was the 2016 Braves. And if there was ever an unlikely spoiler player, it was Aaron Blair. As for the Blue Jays, they would complete a series win the next day against the Red Sox and clinch the first wildcard spot by tying the Orioles record, as they had beaten them in the season matchup. They'd go on to win the wildcard game in dramatic fashion and make it all the way to the 2016 ALCS, where they'd eventually fall to the Cleveland Indians. The Blue Jays fell in the ALCS back-to-back years, and this would be their last serious window of contention, but they look to be back in 2021. As for the Tigers, they'd enter a spell of dismal play and disappointment. But after enduring a full rebuild, the team looks like they have a completely new focus in the year 2021, and it seems as though they're building something special and could even finish at 500 this year. So with enough time passed, I feel that it's okay to dwell on this crazy day in 2016, because both of these teams have very bright futures coming to fruition right now. But anyways, that'll do it for this video. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. I'm the Jolly Olive, and I'll see you guys next time.